All right, today we're going to dive into what I think is one of the most expressive, most individual sections of the entire symphony orchestra. We're talking about the woodwinds. So let's jump right in.
When you listen to a full orchestra, it can sometimes feel like this magnificent but just overwhelming wall of sound, right? It's absolutely beautiful, but can you really truly pick out the individual voices inside it all? Well, that's exactly the challenge we're going to tackle today.
Okay, so here's the core difference, and it's a big one. Think about the string section. All those violins, cellos, violas, they often blend together, right? They become this one glorious, unified voice. But the woodwinds? Oh, that's a whole different story. That's the section composers turn to when they want distinct personalities, when they're looking for individual colors.
So, here's our plan. First, we're going to figure out what makes this family so unique. Then, we'll get to meet its four main voices. After that, we're going to put your ears to the test with a little quiz. And by the end, hopefully, you'll have a completely new way to hear orchestral music.
All right, first up, what exactly makes a woodwind instrument, well, a woodwind? The answer, you might be surprised, is a little more complex than you'd think.
So, the classic definition seems super simple, right? It's made of wood, and you blow into it. Easy. But it's not quite that straightforward. I mean, think about it. A lot of modern woodwinds, like the flute, are actually made of metal. So the family name is really more about its history, its heritage, and how the sound is produced, not so much what it's made of.
So, for our purposes, we're going to focus on the four core members you'll find in pretty much any classical orchestra. We've got them here arranged from the highest pitch down to the lowest. And yeah, we got to give a quick shout out to their cousin, the saxophone. You're probably not going to find one in a Beethoven symphony, but hey, it's technically part of the family because it uses a reed. Okay, now for the fun part. Let's get to know our cast of characters. And I really mean characters, because each one has such a distinct personality, a unique voice that composers use for very, very specific effects. And we're going to start right at the top of the pitch range with the flute. Its sound is probably one of the most recognizable in the entire orchestra. It's that sound that just seems to float above everyone else.
And get this, it's ancient, like unbelievably ancient. The oldest one we've ever found, the Divier-Babé flute, dates back 43,000 years. I mean, that is just incredible. The fact that it's been around that long tells you something really profound about how much it appeals to us as humans.
So the sound itself, it's often described as pure, kind of airy, and really agile. And when you add its higher-pitched little sibling, the piccolo, you get the bright, sparkling top end of the whole section's sound.
Okay, let's move on to our next instrument and see how this all builds. We're talking about the oboe. And if the flute is all pure and clear, the oboe, well, the oboe is something else entirely.
The secret to the oboe's unique sound is this thing called a double reed. So instead of blowing across a hole like a flute, the player blows through two tiny pieces of cane that are stuck together. They vibrate like crazy against each other, and that's what gives the instrument its really unique, penetrating, and yeah, sometimes kind of quacking sound.
But don't let that quacking description fool you. That really focused sound gives the oboe an incredibly expressive voice. It can be haunting, it can be really sad. I mean, composers like Wagner used it to create this atmosphere of eerie tension and just pure melancholy.
Next up, we've got the clarinet, and this one is actually a relative newcomer to the whole orchestra scene. Here's a cool fact for you. If you're listening to music by, say, Bach or Handel, you're not going to hear a clarinet. It just wasn't there. It only became a standard part of the orchestra around Mozart's time, and Mozart absolutely fell in love with it. He loved its incredible vocal quality and its expressive range, and he really helped make it famous. So unlike that sharp-edged sound of the oboe, the clarinet, which uses just a single reed, has a much smoother, pure, more rounded sound. It's just incredibly mellow, especially in its middle range, and that's what gives it that kind of cool, jazzy feel that we all know and love today.
And finally, we make our way down to the bottom of the section with the wonderful, and let's be honest, slightly weird-looking bassoon. Because of its low pitch and that kind of quirky look, the bassoon often gets typecast as the comedian of the orchestra. And don't get me wrong, it can be really funny, but its range is so much wider than that. It can be spooky, it can be deeply expressive, even haunting. It provides this crucial, versatile, deep voice for the whole section.
So there they are, our four characters. You've got the pure, high-pitched flute with no reed, the plaintive, double-reeded oboe, the mellow, single-reeded clarinet, and the versatile, double-reeded bassoon holding down the bottom.
Each one has its own story to tell. Now, let's see if you can actually hear the difference.
All right, it is time for a little listening challenge. I'm going to play a short musical clip, and your job is to listen really closely and see if you can identify the woodwind instruments you hear. You ready? Okay, listen carefully. There are a few different voices trading melodies back and forth here. See if you can pick them out. So, how'd you do? You should have clearly heard the oboe and then the clarinet. But if you caught that little bassoon phrase right at the very end, hey, extra brownie points to you. That one can be pretty sneaky.
You see, the whole goal here isn't just to memorize a bunch of facts. It's to completely transform how you listen to this music. It's all about moving beyond that beautiful but sometimes indistinct wall of sound.
So, the next time you put on a symphony, I want you to try something. Don't just hear the orchestra, listen into it. Actively listen for these characters, for the pure flute, the plaintive oboe, the mellow clarinet, and that comic but eerie bassoon. Ask yourself, which characters are you going to follow on their journey through the music?